it still has 9, 7.
I think we're live.
Yes, well, it's counting down now. Okay, yeah, we are live, and we want to welcome everyone to. We want to welcome everyone to another edition of the New Jack Swing podcast. Myself, Nnamdi, got Stevie, and Sheldon will be joining us shortly. And yeah, it's been great when we're doing this, and it's also great when we do have you guys taking part. How has it been for you, Stevie? It's been 2 weeks since we last went live.
Well, let me first wish you a good evening. Wish
Yeah.
the listeners, around the world, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Consistently, great to be back. Third episode. Wow, in as many weeks. What's
Yeah.
what's on the menu for today then?
Yeah, well, today, I mean, Sheldon was fortunate enough to attend the Legacy Tour last weekend. And so he is going to give us a review of what it was like. So he was boots on the ground, so he was able to see it and give us an update on that. But we also were going to Timmy Gatling's interview has had some controversy. He's made some strong points, and so it'd be great for us to discuss that because it's as you always know when I interview, I'm just neutral, but this is a great opportunity just to be able to reflect on that, and other people might have ideas of that, and we're always going to be open for people to give us their questions and comments and join in the show. And then also, we have a segment where we do want to be able to list up our top 10 New Jack Swing singles, but we won't do all of them tonight and stuff. And then, Stevie, you always, if there's any new spotlights or anything New Jack Swing, any new artists that are keeping the New Jack Swing legacy alive that you want to showcase, then this will be an opportunity as well.
Sure. Hopefully we'll get all that in this evening.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, while we're waiting for Sheldon, we could just go and start off with the Timmy Gatling interview. It was 2 hours and 14 minutes. I believe 2 hours of the interview has gone out. There's probably just the last 15 or so minutes left. What has been your reaction to Timmy this time around? Because I'm sure you saw him the first time around and seen him this time.
It's interesting because there's a lot of revelations came out. I'm thinking, what has set him off? Is it something Damien said in the previous interview that's led him to come out and say what he said? I don't know. The guy's obviously been. He's held that story in for years. He's his side of the truth. The internet's come along. There's a whole bunch of people around the world who are New Jack Swing fans who are hungry to hear more information of what happened back then because we was all left wondering. So I don't know. It's like I guess some of us have all had that girl in the past that we broke up with that left us heartbroken that we never got back. We always wanted back, and I kind of feel like is that the case with him? I mean, we've heard his story. We've heard what Damien said. We've not heard fully what Teddy said yet. I mean, you hear it. Once you've got all the information together, somewhere in there's the truth. I'm not disputing anything he said at all. He's very passionate, quite emotional. I do feel though that Damien, out the three guy members that are on tour at the moment, he's the easy target. I'd like to ask Timmy why when he left the group or whether Gene put him out of the group, why didn't Aaron and Damien fight for his place for him to stay?
Aaron Arian,
Aaron and Teddy, yeah. Why didn't they say, look, we want him in the group. What's going on? You know, he's wrote all these songs. He's done all these bass lines. He's pre-production. He's, you know, he's obviously a huge part of that first album. We need him going forward, but obviously that didn't happen. It was like he's out of the group and he's left heartbroken.
Yeah.
You know, and Damien comes in. He's not aware of what's gone on. Sounds to me in the past, and is Damien an easy target?
Yeah.
Because he's actually saying what is Damien doing in the group, which I think is a bit unfair. You know what I mean? It is a bit unfair.
Yeah, and it is hard for me because I'm a big fan of Damien, and I respect Damien a lot. He's come on he's given me two different interviews, but but the second interview he gave me was I remember he gave me his number, said to call me up so we can set it up, and I called him, and he kind of forgot the timing because of the East Coast and all that stuff. And then he says, promise you in 2 days time, we'll do it again. And I called, he was set up. There was some bad storm, so the signal wasn't great. He went up to his bedroom. He was sitting on the floor to do the interview. And and this was 3 days. It was about 3 or 5 days before the Legacy tour. And, it was longer than I expected. It got into my birthday. He sang me happy birthday, and he just was saying, anything you need, just look out for, just let me know. So for me personally, I have lots of love for Damien, and as well as Timmy. So it's, how it's like when you have two friends who don't like each other and you're right in the middle, and it's like,
I'm about to say that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Because you're in the middle of this now. I mean, I take it Damien hasn't even seen that interview, and my theory is, what's his reaction going to be?
Yeah, I think he might have. I don't know if he, that it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't surprise me that it would get to him, because a lot of people watch, and they don't comment, but they do watch. For me, when I was doing the interview, I was, and I don't. People might not realize, but I was there stunned, and I was like, okay, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna just receive it as it comes in. But I'm also mindful that I didn't want to. Everyone has their space to share, and it was important for Timmy to share what he felt like sharing, and I didn't want to start editing it out, because then it doesn't do justice to, because what he was going through and what he wants to say. But one of the things is, you will not know the context of the interview unless you watch it. So it's not like Timmy blast Damien, and that's not the heading point. It's like you're watching it, talking about Gene, talking about their their masters and things like that. And then if you're watching it, you may say, "Wow, where's this coming from?" And so that was the most that I'm able to do. My theory, and this is just me as an observer, I think there's an element of maybe when they were calling and talking about, we need to get our masters back. Universal wants us all to be part of it. Maybe there were some promises. I'm just assuming that there were some promises to say, yeah, we may be going on tour, we may be celebrating, and it'll be great if all of us get back together. And that could have been the case. And then all of a sudden the Legacy tours happens and he's left out. That's just my observation, that maybe that's the case. And there's a lot of sense of, that we've talked about this. You guys were calling me up, made these promises, and you've got what you want, and now you've reneged. That's just a wild speculation. I can't tell.
I did go back to the interview, and I think it was the bit where he was talking about, Damien said something about he agreed with Gene Griffin about his version, Gene's version of how the name Guy was created. Because obviously Timmy's got his version, which is totally believable. Why would you not believe it? They're walking down the street. There's the clothes shop that says Guy. It's, you know, I don't dispute that. And he decided to call the group Guy from there. And I think the fact that Damien disagreed with that kind of didn't help the situation. Where, excuse me, I've got a nice cup of chamomile.
You can see it. But you know what? And I think people also have to recognize because I know Timmy made the correlation between Johnny Gill joining New Edition and Damon joining Guy. But I think one of the things that happened when Johnny Gill joined New Edition is that on that album he was integrated and say he was singing. He had his parts that he was singing, and he didn't come to replace Bobby Brown. He came and did something differently. But he was Can You Stand the Rain and Boys to Men, Not Your Kind of Girl, and so he was all over the Any Heartbreak album, and then after that, he was able to have, from the Any Heartbreak album, he was able to have a very successful album of his own. And the way New Edition have put themselves together is that then when they do their shows, they come together, they break up in their stuff, and so they incorporate everyone's success as individuals and as a group. Guy don't do that. So Aaron Hall wouldn't be doing I Miss You and When You Need Me and Don't Be Afraid, and then come back and do the Guy stuff. Teddy does it. Teddy has a little time out where he does his Remember the Time and Kissing Game and Just Got Paid, and then and Rump Shaker, and then do the Guy stuff. So there's a sense that they're not given an opportunity to showcase that side. So and they don't do enough for the future. So I don't know. So as I said, it's hard. I mean, looking at the reaction from those who've been watching it, a lot of people were glad to hear Timmy share his stuff.
Totally.
A lot of people were, we're hearing a lot more about Gene, a lot of a lot of the things he was doing, and as I said, as people are saying, is that okay? There's too much to say about Damon that might not be fair, but as I said, I always leave that for everyone else.
I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I mean, I don't want to play that around, say Jackie McGee. That was devil's advocate, but little joke for you there. Let's say Timmy Gatling's album, the Help album, on Tommy Boy Records. Let's say that blew up at the time. Literally, it went as big as Bobby Brown's "Don't Be Cruel." Yeah, and Timmy became overnight a worldwide solo star, and he didn't just make $1 million from it, like he's saying he made. He became a multi-millionaire from it. Yeah, would he be revealing all that now, knowing on the back of all that success? Would he? Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Would it bother him as much because he's just become a massive solo star? He's made a load of money. He's worldwide renowned. Would the split up from Guy then? Would it bother him so much? Again, devil's advocate.
Yeah, and I do wonder. I mean, those who are watching, you can please comment because we'll read out your comments. But there's a part of me that wonders that that moment that you are just about to change the face of music, because Guy are credited for changing. Teddy is credited for changing the face of music, and just at that moment, everything gets taken away. So I don't know if that's
his own solo album is so underrated.
Yeah. Tommy, Tommy.
I'd love to. Did he break down his album track by track in a past interview? Because I'd love him to do that.
No, and I don't think he puts a. He does. He just he
gave us. He played probably because maybe it didn't sell as well as he'd liked it to. But to me, it's a really strong New Jack album.
He said he gave his best tracks away to Christopher Williams and Belle Biv DeVoe. So for guys who don't know, Timmy Gatling wrote When I See You Smile Again, I Do Need You, and he did something for Ralph. I can't remember what he did for Ralph.
What about the song Help? That could have, for me, was that a Guy song? I don't know. It could have easily that groove.
Yeah, he did. He
Die
did
out.
make. Yeah, he did make you sweat.
Great
Talk
track.
to myself, which was my prerogative part two. So he did a lot of those things. But I think there's still a lot of hurt that hasn't been addressed. The comment we have here is from a business point of view, guys leaving a lot of money on the table if they don't include Timmy for a tour next year with other acts. The hype around it would help with the marketing. And Sheldon, what do you think about that?
I think here's another devil's advocate, right? You say you're the head honcho at Universal Records, and you've got enough budget to not sign a new group, but pump millions of dollars into a well-known black music group from the past, and you think to yourself, I used to love Guy. What are they doing now? If there was, say, I don't know, $3 to $5 million on the table, and Mr. Universal went, Guy, here's 5 million, Teddy, Aaron, Timmy, there's $5 million here, $3 million to come back and make an album. Money talks, doesn't it? Would they do it for that amount of money?
Yes, and remember Timmy. I asked Timmy before, would he have, if he was offered an opportunity? He says yes. The way everything would have to be laid out, he would definitely come back for it. It's, but then it's a case of whether Teddy would want to come back into it, because then I think Teddy and Aaron probably know that Timmy is. Was the leader of the group and sort of the direction. So does he come back in and take a lot more?
Tours, they get back together for a tour because there's money there. Money talks.
Yes,
I remember. It was interesting from like the mid 2000s onward. Every year, and I'm going back to some of you might remember the NGS3 forum out there, NGS3.com. We always used to talk on the forum, and every year at the start of the year, there'd always be these rumors of a new Guy album or a new Blackstreet album. And we'd all laugh because we just knew after a few years, it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, it's down to money. If you offer Teddy Riley, because Teddy Riley's about money. If you offer him enough money, he's going to buy it,
Yeah. But
I said once, why don't we imagine if all the New Jack Swing fans crowdfunded a guy, like there was a crowdfund for a TLC album. I don't know, it's crazy to say we crowdfunded $1 million and they got 200 grand each in the pocket, and the other 200 grand was left for promotion. Would they go for it, or would they just laugh at us? I just don't know.
Yeah, you might. So I listening to to Timmy. Money wasn't an object for him. He said he was a millionaire back in 1990, and so he hasn't, no extra, and he still has the main publishing with the Guy album, and then for all the other stuff he did, because he got his publishing. So when I see you smile again and all that stuff, then he got a big check to become executive at Warner Brothers at Universal. So he's still been doing that for the past 10 plus years. So money isn't the object for Timmy. And I think the way he talks about the way Guy presents themselves on stage, and he compares it to what New Edition do, he would then think we have to have a very different approach if we're to do this stuff. That we were supposed to be the new version of the Gap Band, and we're supposed to put New Edition to shame. I think, and he goes and remembers the fact that when they had kids at work, in some shows, both Carell and Timmy verified this, that actually they put New Edition to in some markets, they were bigger than New Edition. So he's seen them since they were kids. So when he looks at them, he's like, this was us. We were supposed to be this. We were supposed to be rivaling what they're doing. And so there's a sense of lost opportunity, and also a sense of what Guy is doing now doesn't seem to make up to where they're supposed to be. But as I said, I actually did have hope that there was going to be some reconciliation over the time. I didn't think that things were going to turn to where it is now, and so it's disappointing to me.
Here's a story for you. I always kind of tell this story to people who are into New Jack Swing. I don't know whether you could call this fate or just sheer coincidence. The very first time I ever visited the States was in 1996. I went with two music business friends. They were shopping some remixes and demos around various like independent record labels.
Hmm.
And we hired a car for 2 weeks and we drove around, gosh, it must have been the East Coast, the Midwest, down to the South. And on one particular day, we stopped off in a town called Savannah. Beautiful place. It's like
In
going
Georgia?
Back, yeah. It's like going back to the 1950s. These flags, they got the flags out on it, every house. And we ended up in this huge, it was a cafe. And inside, there was this cafe outside, and inside, there was like a bandstand where live gigs went on. And all around it was these crates of vinyl that were for sale. And I just happened to look through a few crates of vinyl, and I pulled out the Kids at Work album. And it was signed. It was signed by all three members.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. Is this fate? I was supposed to find this, or is it just coincidence? How many people have got a signed Kids at Work album?
Do you still have it?
Clarell, Timmy, and Teddy.
Do you still have it?
I still have it. It's on my rack somewhere. I'll have to dig it out.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's we listen to Timmy and we listen to Damien, we listen to Carell, and they all share their story and the
I love that Clarell interview, by the way.
Okay.
It was interesting to find out that he was offered a deal with MCA. He should have snatched. He should have got out of that deal with Rooftop and snatched Gerald Busby's hand off. What was he thinking?
Yeah.
Hi, Clarell. Would you like to sign for MCA?
No, I think Carell is sorry,
Clarell, by the way, if you're watching this.
No, but you know the one thing
I do have your record as well. I have his record.
But you know the one thing about Carell is that he was very honest about the fact that he made bad decisions, that he got stuck into the time not wanting to cut his hair. He was very honest about that. He was honest about not really taking advantage of the opportunities that were given to him. But if you look at him now, he looks like he's still in his mid-40s, not 10 years younger. He seems to be in a different and a better place. But it is those kinds of things that what would have and what could have and stuff like that.
If we'd have got a Clarell album on MCA, would have had a track produced by Teddy. There'd have been some Alton Wookie Stewart tracks on.
Yes,
I don't want my mind even think about it.
I'm just going to also drop that within the coming days, I'm interviewing. I don't know if you know him, Dimitris Ship.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yes, he is. He did the two. He was part of the new Teddy's Future Records crew. He produced "That's the Way Love Goes" on the Bobby album, and as well as "Till the End of Time."
What about the Troop stuff? The Troop stuff as well. Did all that?
Yes, he did the stuff with Troop. He did stuff with Troop. Then he went to do stuff with Death Row, but if you search for Dimitri Ship on the internet, his son pops up because his son played Tupac in the Tupac film, and his son is and I had a conversation with him last night, and he has some stories from both working with Teddy and working with Death Row and stuff. So definitely looking forward to that. And there is a hope that they can that people are going to be able to connect me with Pharrell. So I'm definitely, everyone has his number, so we're still waiting to do some of the stuff like that. So that's just some exclusive, guys. That these are phone calls that happened last night. I think so.
What's happened with Mike C from Z Luke? Are we any nearer to getting an interview with him? Do you think maybe?
Yes, so he's 100% down. He is he was unwell for a bit, and he did say that he's recovering, and so but he did say that once he's recovered, he was going to get the boys together, and he's going to get the boys together, and then he's going to be able to join us, and it's most likely I'm going to try and get him to join us on one of these podcasts with him alone, and then we have the group around. Um, with yeah, so yeah, some a question. This is a great question about a documentary about the New Jack Swing. Would have been tremendous from a third party, reputable director, not biased. But as I said, Stevie, did you listen? You listened to Jack, right?
Say that again. Sorry.
You
The Jack podcast.
Yeah, the podcast.
Yes.
For me, it didn't seem as if it was. If I felt it told the story from Teddy. Damien had a chance to share. Then you had New Edition. You had other people within MCA. So it didn't feel. It felt like everyone shared, and it gave everyone had a chance to tell the story. But it's probably one of the best. And I applaud any of you if you haven't listened to it. Just search Jacked on.
Very emotional as well. It's quite
very emotional on Apple Podcast or anything like that. Just search for Jack. It's 6 episodes, over 6 hours long. It is very emotional, because both Timmy shares his stuff. I as I said, it was hard for me listening to the series and just thinking about just the loss. The Teddy was dating Marsha McClurkin, who was part of the group Abstract, and she actually did backgrounds on the Barbie album with Mary Brown. And
I'd love to hear her story as well. Abstract, Eminem, love to hear their story.
Yes, I mean they were. I was supposed to get them on, but anyway, they were dating, and Jean was very suspicious that actually she might open Teddy's eyes to the fact that Jean was taking out the money. So he said no dating within the company. He banned it. And so it was almost as if, and then he actually started staring Teddy to go after groupies. And so Teddy and Marshall continued their relationship behind the scenes. However, Teddy had to play as if nothing was up. So he had to, Jean would be bringing groupies in. And after a while, it became too toxic. And then that's when she split and she just left everything. And that's who Teddy went to when he had no money and he had to get her credit card. And she went to get a 9 to 5. So for Timmy to say Teddy had 30 plus million, should have made about 30 plus million, and he had to go to his ex-girlfriend to get her credit card because he had no money. For him, he just like, wow, that makes no sense. So I think he just had to realize that, man, these guys, they didn't listen to what I told them, and look how bad it was financially for them. So it's as I said, if you listen to this podcast, it is heartbreaking to just hear all that stuff. It's amazing, but it's a really hard thing, especially when Timmy talks about when they come to the Coliseum in LA, and they just walk past him. They just see him as if they've seen a ghost. And he shared it too. I mean,
he remembers it all like it was yesterday.
As if it was yesterday. And so when people are thinking, oh, why is Timmy upset? This is still very raw to him. That you guys, Teddy, I'd known you since you were 8 years old. Aaron, you begged, I got you into the group, and the first chance for success, you turned on me. You didn't stand up and say, if Timmy's out, we're out. Because Gene couldn't do anything without Teddy and Aaron. But they were so afraid that this is their opportunity. They were like, yeah, whatever then. And so he thought they would stand up for him. And they were like, yeah, we don't know what will happen. So it's such an amazing documentary, because the interviews that I do, even if they talk about it, doesn't do it justice as much, because you're hearing from everybody. You're hearing from Damien, you're hearing from Teddy, Johnny Gill is in it. I can't remember who else is in, but it's everyone that contributes. People who are working with Gene Griffin, all sharing. Marsha talks about things. It is an amazing documentary. Um, so that was that. I'm not sure where Sheldon is, but anyway, Stevie, we were going to start looking at some of our favorite New Jack Swing tracks. I know that we don't. It might be hard for you to, if you said doing a top 10. What is easier for you to do? And it'd be great for you guys who are watching in if you had some of your favorite New Jack Swing tracks, to list them up so we can see how they match up. And
I mean, it's interesting because I thought, how am I going to compile this top 10? Do I compile my favorite 10 records that I couldn't stop playing at the time in my late teens, early 20s, that I just played over and over again? Or do I compile it 30 years on with having 30 years knowledge of it? And what records that I still listen to now? Because some of them, there's some that I can't. I'm just fed up to death of hearing.
Are you serious?
It's like what has lasted 30 years, what I can still stand to listen to. But I think the 10 I've gone, nah, it's got to be from what I felt back then as a teenage, that feeling I had when I was a teenager, early 20s, wanting to get that vinyl out and put it on, like most of us would have done, and just playing them records over and over again. It's an impossible task. I've got 20 records here, 10 that didn't make it, and 10 that are in an order. And obviously we don't want to give away the whole top 10 this week.
But you can give the 10 that didn't make it. So
right.
that would be So today you can give the 10 that didn't make it. So
glasses on for this, so I can see.
Yeah, you can do the 10 that didn't make it. So that because.
Well, here's 10 records that didn't make it. I'll Be Sure, Rescue Me, the I'm Not Mad remix, because I just thought the production sound on that record at the time was just incredible. So that's one of them. It's a great record, Rescue Me. The Girls, Jam Jam, If You Can, the hip hop mix, the Untouchables remix. Wow, I just love the video. Again, it's, they're so young, them girls. Just a great up-tempo swing record that just really just gets you in the mood, doesn't it? Ex-Girlfriend, You're the One for Me, produced by Full Force.
Wow.
That probably, I'd say that and The Girls is probably my all-time favorite female New Jack records. I just thought, again, brilliant production from Full Force, great song, just a brilliant record. This is a late entry into the 10 that didn't make it, because it's just something I still play all the time now. And that's going back to Mike Z and Z Luke from the second album, a track called She's My Only Love. If you've not heard that record before, it's just the way it builds. It's a great record, and there is, I think, somewhere there's an unreleased extended mix which I might have to talk to Mike Z about. That probably he doesn't even know about. Then there's Belle Biv DeVoe, who've got a full first album of hits, and I went for the LP mix of I Thought It Was Me. Again, I used to play that cassette tape when I used to walk to school in the mornings, and I'd always have the Belle Biv DeVoe tape on, and I'd wore that tape out. But I wasn't too hot on the remix, but I just love the funk of that original mix. Then we get to Guy. We could have numerous Guy tracks in the top 10. Obviously, Guy I Like. Over 30 years, we spoke about in the last podcast. It's a viral hit. That will, it's a record we'll be buried with that record. You know what I mean? It's, it's such a timeless record now. Another Guy one, My Fantasy. Okay. One of the first records I heard that I thought was New Jack Swing. Needs, we've all heard that one. Here's another surprise. 2 left in this. Colin England, a guy we need to talk about as well. Did 2 albums. I Got What You Need, the extended listening pleasure mix, the 12-inch mix, incredible mix. G-Man Carranti on production there. And the final one that was in my top 10, and I had to pull it out because I'd forgot something else. It was equally as big. Randy Jackson and the Gypsies, Love You Honey. Have you heard that one before?
No, but you're pulling out some stuff from everywhere.
Randy Jackson and the Gypsies, Love You Honey. It's got one of the most memorable chorus lines you'll ever hear.
Wow. Okay.
You're a Jackson fan. You need to go on YouTube and listen to that record. The LP mix. I wasn't a fan of the 12-inch mix because it kind of, I don't know, it went kind of all over the place at times. But the LP mix is brilliant.
Wow. No, I mean, so you can tell that you're a massive connoisseur. Because for myself, it was hard to pick anything. Yeah. Somebody's asked the question because, as I said, for you, I mean, you're listing stuff that a lot of us might not have seen or heard if we weren't. Because you have to understand it in the US, if it wasn't making mainstream, it didn't get the play. So outside, it'd probably be big in Japan and the UK. Some of these tracks that you've listed. It doesn't go without saying the majority of my tracks were produced by Teddy Riley, because
no surprise.
that was. But I wanted to list a few that actually, so some of the New Jack tracks that I wasn't a massive fan of. My prerogative. There's something about the track that I don't know. It was okay, but it wasn't my favorite track on that album, and it's probably not my least favorite sort of Teddy smash. I don't know what your thoughts are.
When I first heard that record, I didn't know whether I liked it or not. I didn't know. I'd grown to love that record.
Are you grown to love it?
SMS 130 says the Dog Me Out remix with Rex. Yeah, brilliant mix.
Yeah, no, and so my prerogative was a hard one for me, but I think one of the first New Jack that I did hear was the Rex and Effects New Jack Swing, and I remember being in Nigeria when that came out, and what really set us off was when Teddy was introducing all the tracks that he was producing. We got Keith Sweat, Zanderman, Modi, Bishaw, Bobby Brown, and my man. But I was like, wow, look at all the and for us to see all these people feature in the video was like, my goodness, this is mind blowing. We didn't know, how easy it was for them to just drive down and do that, but it was that to me was a really important moment just to see, Teddy owning the track, owning the New Jack Swing. And just really just saying, look at what I've done. So that was an important record for me. Now, it didn't make my top 10, but it was an important record. Him and Me by Today. That didn't make my top 10, but it did make my what actually did make my top 10 was a track from them, but not Him and Me. And I think what else would not have, it was a good track but did not make my top 10. Just Got Paid, and I don't know if it was because it got overplayed. I love the track, but I think it felt like it was just too commercial, and it's and somehow New Jack Swing is a genre of music that I won't say it's underground, but it is the kind of stuff that if it's overexposed, it can lose it becomes too commercial. So that's why some of the things
I'm tired of it. I sound spoiled, but I'm tired of hearing that record. I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's why I said it was good.
One of the originals, it's one of the originals.
Yeah, and that's why my prerogative also falls into that, because it gets played so much and things like that.
Someone just mentioned Tap Into My Heart, the unreleased Bobby Brown track from Mikosana. Tap Into My Heart. He performed live. It was never.
Oh,
It was never released. I don't even know if there's a studio version of that. It was just a track that he performed live once.
Yeah, I wonder who produced that.
We'll never know. It was
supposed
to be from an unreleased 1990-91 album. This Phantom album that never came out because he was so busy touring. What was the other one? He says, Bobby, drop it on the one. The B Brown Posse. Love that record.
Yeah.
I must admit, when I first heard Drop It on the One, it came out in 93, and I thought it sounded like it had been recorded in 1991. It sounded a couple of years, production-wise, kind of out of date to me, but I love the energy of it.
Yeah. So
do you remember that B Brown Posse album?
Yes, I did. But as I said, people may be watching, some of my interviews with I love Teddy's crew, from Eric Williams and everything. You've got to always remember that I'm Teddy's biggest fan, and until I get Teddy on the show, anyone that's worked with Teddy, I just try and talk to and listen to what they have to say. Unfortunately, not everyone who's had an experience working with Teddy has talks about the positive side. They talk about the good. They always talk about his genius, but they also have some other areas that they went to happy about.
Hold on a minute. I must have told you that I've met Teddy Riley, haven't I? Have I told you that story?
In Manchester when they were at the concert?
Should I tell the listeners that story?
Was it that one? No.
No, I've actually met him. I've met him 3 times, twice in London, thanks to VJ NJS3, because he kind of sorted that out. He's kind of big friends with Teddy. Shouts to him.
Wow.
And then later on, years later, it was the Blackstreet and Keith Sweat tour that came to my home city of Manchester. And I think it was 2017. And I was doing a show at the time on the station that I'm still at now, Legacy 90.1 FM. I was playing a lot of soul and New Jack Swing at the time. And I thought, well, these guys are coming to Manchester. I've got to get an interview. I have to try and get an interview with some of them, one of them, any of them. I managed to find out who Teddy's manager was. I forgot her name, but she was based out in LA. I got her email address, and it must have been about three weeks. I think Sheldon's here. Maybe we'll have to put that story on hold for another time. We'll keep the listeners waiting because Sheldon's here now.
Okay. Sheldon, thanks for joining us. How you doing? I hope he's able to hear us. Sheldon, can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Yeah,
we can hear you,
I'm
Sheldon.
sorry I'm late. I had to wrap up another interview that I had, so I was trying to. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, I had to wrap up another interview. I was trying to go real fast, man, and went over. So
is it Andy Sheldon?
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
I said you're in demand. Doing another interview.
Yeah. It's probably CNN. Sheldon's becoming big time, so. Can we hear you? Are you still there? Okay. It's frozen up, but Stevie, they're asking, let's hear your story.
I can hear you. You a little bit now, but yeah.
Okay. It seems as if you're back, right?
Let's get to this. Let's get to this tour. I'm dying to hear what happened at the tour now. He's here now. Come on, Sheldon, tell us.
Legacy tour, Sheldon.
Oh, he's gone.
He's dropped out. Okay, so while he's coming back in, okay, here it is now. Okay, Sheldon. Okay, tell us about the Legacy tour, because you have been the only one out of all of us who has attended.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, it was a great show. Like I was telling you, Nnamdi, I got off of a red-eye flight from the West Coast to the East Coast, and then I had to drive like 2 hours in heavy rain to Baltimore to get to the show.
Wow.
So I got there, Keith Sweat and New Edition. I missed Guy, but like I said, the distance that I had to drive and the weather kind of held things up or whatever. But I'm going to tell you, with that show, New Edition confirmed why they are the epitome of all of the 80s, 90s groups in terms of showmanship. I mean, the show was excellent. Obviously, like I said, I got there when Keith Sweat was performing, so I got a chance to see him perform some of his songs. And I spoke to someone at the concert, and they said Guy did very well. But I'll tell you, the spot was packed. We're talking about 20,000 people. It was packed, everybody. And it was just, Keith had the audience in the palm of his hand. Teddy performed with him. And it was just, he was running through all the songs off the Make It Last Forever album. And I swear, it was just Keith and Teddy, and the audience was singing along, song for song. He just had him in the palm of his hand, man. It was just, I've never seen him live in concert before. So to see him, all the crazy stories, him being drunk and, some lip syncing and all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you, Keith put it down. He put it down that night. He's just run through the whole catalog, and just to see people's response was amazing. I just kept going from looking at him to looking around at the crowd, and he had the crowd in this, man. And then when New Edition, God, it was like it went to the next level, because now it was they came from up out of the stage. So when they started out, they called the group out. They came up from under these risers and came up off the stage, and the first song that they did was Crucial. So they went into their whole routine. Of course, Bobby walked off the stage, and they went into their thing. But I'm going to tell you this: that show was, the pacing of the show was excellent, because they had a great mixture of the up tempos and the ballads, and the way that the show was situated. They didn't leave. I mean, they hit you with all the ballads that people kind of remember from them prior to Heartbreak, and the way the show was set up. Even though, believe it or not, Bobby got the largest and the loudest screams of the whole night.
Wow.
Bobby was just, the response for Bobby was so great. And the way that they set it up, obviously, the sequencing of the started out with the up tempos, but it was paced to where everybody got a chance to do their solo songs. And when Bobby was doing his thing, he would come out and do the ballads like Roni, and people would just lose their minds. And then when it came to the up-tempo songs where he would normally dance, he would come out and New Edition would perform the songs with him. And the way it was set up, they would do the choreography, but then they would interact with them. So it was like to compensate for all the athletic stuff that he used to do when he was young. It was like you really didn't miss it. It wasn't like when you were watching him perform, you're like, oh man, I wish I could see the Bobby from '88, because he would perform and they would dance with him. And then there were moments in time where Bobby would do from '88. Now, he wasn't doing it at the pace that he was doing it back then, but what he would do the dance, the choreography off of Toby, and he would just enough where people would kind of really pull in just to give you enough of what he used to do. And again, one support from the group members, man. And then when it came to, let's say, for example, come out and do his thing, and it was amazing, because I'm watching there's a lot of women there, and it's crazy to see a bunch of women that are like 50 plus years old, and they're being transformed into teenagers right before my eyes, because he's doing songs like with you all the way, Lost in all the New Edition they did when they were like 15 and 16, and I'm seeing them back into kids again. So it was paced very well, the way of their songs. It wasn't like they left anything out, but you started out with the up tempo, then they the slow ballads, and they would pick it up again. Ralph and Ricky would do Mr. Telephone Man. Bobby wasn't, he didn't come out and perform that, but it was still, you didn't miss anything. And then when they had periods of time when they would do their songs, and they would have a period where Ralph would actually like talk. I mean, not Ralph, Mike. He would go to the top of the stage and he would be up there by himself and he would do his talking, like when they would do, what's the one? Can You Stand the Rain? And he would get and he would have his part where he would talk. The way the stage was set up, it was just like they would go out, they would do, uniform changes. They would change the mics up. When they would go into one song, four of them would kind of like share the mic, and Ralph would do his thing. I'm trying to tell you, I saw them perform many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, 1984. That was the first concert I ever went to. And to see them now, I'm trying to tell you, man, they are head and shoulders over all of the peers who they had come out with. So you're talking about, you saw them during the Home Again. So imagine the Home Again show times 10. I'm not gonna lie to you. You're talking about the choreography was on point, singing was on point.
How much of
the
Heartbreak album? How much of that album did they do song wise?
Oh wow! They did Crucial, which would open up the show. They did, of course, If It Isn't Love. They closed the show with Any Heartbreak. Wow. The song, the remix to Any Heartbreak. They did that one, yes, because Poison closed the show, and then they back with the going on the Any Heartbreak remix. So they did that. They did what's the other record that they did?
Can You Stand the Rain?
You're Not My Kind of Girl. You're Not My Kind of Girl.
Did you do Sorry, I'm Not Your? Yeah, I love that record. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah, because what they did was they would have in the background, they would have like the videos, and you kind of knew what was going to happen because the microphones that they had in the video, You're Not My Kind of Girl, they brought those microphones out. As soon as they brought them out, because it was dark, so everybody knew what they were going to do.
Wow.
The slants or whatever, the slanted microphone. Oh my God, them guys, man, they turned it out. They turned it out. You're talking about, I mean, on a scale 1 through 10, 10, man, 10. I'm talking about Johnny. He went ahead and did his thing. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder because
he did my. Go ahead.
No, but because we're talking about guys who have been in the industry 40 years, so they're all in their mid 50s, and they, after Any Heartbreak and they had Home Again album, they didn't have New Edition they didn't sell as many albums as many people, but when they go on tour, it seems as if they had learned from the time when they're kids that, what will keep you relevant is having a performance. So the music doesn't seem to be the selling point as opposed to the performance and the emotions that the music then evokes when you see the performance, because you're thinking about, okay, people go see Mary or see Beyonce, but I don't get this type of effect about New Edition, about their tours or shows, as I'm seeing when it comes to New Edition. It seems if everyone just respects them. And so you're telling me they didn't miss a beat when they were on stage. They just seemed like they took it into.
The reason why that is because they patterned themselves after performing. They after people like Magic and the Jacksons and people who were like stood and they sang dance, pyro. So they patterned themselves after. So no other kid was out for them to pattern themselves after. So they carry that with them, work for them, because everyone else who came years after, it was more about the record. about the studio. So by the time these people were coming out with these hit records, their stage show wasn't really together. So when you look at what New Edition was able to do, they were the equivalent like OJ's Temptations, groups that may have hadn't had hit records in years, but they had a hit show. And that's what's going to, and that's what takes New Edition above everybody else, because for them, it's always been about the performance. It's always been about the show, and the records were secondary. But the great thing about it is that the records backed up the show. So it's not like, okay, you got a great show and you got mediocre records. You've got great records. And then for them to be able to perform the records and they sound just like the songs when you heard them on the radio or when you bought them. You know, so a lot of groups, they can't do that. They can't pull off the records. I mean, you had a interview with the guys from Basic Black the first time around. I think it was Mucho. And you asked him a question about, can you guys come out and do, you know, put the music out? And he was saying, well, you know, back then they used certain type of equipment. So it's kind of challenging to reproduce those sounds because the equipment has changed. But New Edition, they kind of like surpass all of that because they had a great band behind them, but the performance was great. And that was the thing, man. You know, people were so excited to see them.
What about because there's rumors that there's going to be Kings of New Jack Swing tour next year, Keith and Teddy, and I know they've got the jackets, and I know that they're almost doing a mini rehearsal. When that's why Teddy seems to be part of the Keith Sweat show, because I think the two of them, because they did announce that they were planning something later, and it seems as if Teddy spends more time on Keith's set than before. In fact, at first he came in, did a song and left, but it seems as if they're both doing their thing together. I always tell people, and anyone that knows me would know that my 3 favorite albums are Make It Last Forever, the Barbie album, and it sometimes switches between Guy and the Blackstreet debut album, but Make It Last Forever is
great choices.
Yeah, Make It Last Forever and the Barbie album. Those are my top 2 albums. What was it like when Keith Sweat is doing that Make It Last Forever album? Because people understand that's 8 tracks. That's a classic because it's more popular than anything else he's put out. You know, we have Twisted and Get Up and all that other stuff, but those don't have the same emotions as the Make It Last Forever album. So when he was doing that album, I mean, what tracks was he doing on the Make It Last Forever album?
I mean, he did How Deep Is Your Love? He did oh my God, of course he did Make It Last Forever. I mean, he did
I'm sure he did I Want It.
He did I Wanna. But it was like the ballads. He ended his show with a lot of the ballads for Make It Last Forever. I'm trying to tell you, man, it wasn't like, you know, because normally, back in, you know, 5 years, 7 years, he would end maybe the concert with Twisted. No way. It was like, it was the Make It Last Forever album, man. And I'm trying to tell you, the people were going crazy, man. It's just the fact, and what you were saying as far as the New Jack Swing tour, him and Teddy, I guess they're going to be the anchors. Yeah, they're going to be probably the anchors of the whole thing. So that in that way, and again, it kind of makes sense because I can see Keith Sweat and Teddy Riley like closing. I can see them closing together the way they perform, because you know this is, you know, people never really saw them perform together like that. You know, you're talking about running through the whole catalog, man. So it makes a lot of sense, and I'm going to tell you that tour is probably going to happen sooner than later, because right now, think about it, New Edition was on tour about 7 or 8 months ago. So right now, the era that we're in, these people who we're seeing now, we're in the era of now there are legacy artists doing tours, and they're not doing in the whole setup. It's not like it's some sort of cheap tour when it's not a lot of money in it. You got dancers, it's a whole big production, and it's already proven. So now when you see, it's almost like a special when New Edition was, there was the culture tour and it's the legacy tour. Now with the New Jack Swing situation, this is gonna keep rolling, man. This is gonna
Yeah.
keep rolling.
Wow. So I mean, Stevie, that's stuff that the other part of our question for and as I said, guys, you who are watching in, don't please take part by asking us questions and raising things up. The question then becomes, what next for Guy? Because Sheldon, before you started, Steve and I were reflecting on the Timmy Gatling interview, and he had his reflections on what he's seen with Guy on tour. Now I know you didn't get to catch them because you got there a little bit late, but we have seen clips of Guy on tour, and he had he had his feedback as to what he thought based on the clips you've seen. And now we're hearing about Teddy possibly doing it with Keith doing a Kings of New Jack Swing tour. What does that mean for Guy and Aaron and Damien? As do you think they will continue as Guy, or does Teddy move on, or
I think they'll
I'm
continue
gonna
as
tell
long
you.
as Aaron can open his mouth and sing. That seems to be the big issue here.
I think that like Stevie says, is that they'll continue, man, because right now, I mean, guys are getting older, man. So right now, when you look at this touring situation, it's such a big thing. And they're not doing 10 dates or 5 dates, they're doing like 30 cities. And you haven't
yeah.
seen like black music in 30 cities in decades, man. So right now, I don't see them not jumping on this tour. I really don't see them doing. I think they're all gonna get on board and go out and do it again. And I hope to do it because I missed them. I never saw them in their prime, so I would love to see them. But in terms of the tour situation, I think it's going to be great. Just like Bobby Brown did an interview before, say, look, all the fighting that we used to do, we're not fighting anymore. Because again, they know what this actually means. They know what it means to the fans, but they also know what it means to them, man, in terms of this. Everything kind of lines up. Because with R&B tours, sometimes it's not, it's treated as this big event. It's just a regular tour. So now I'm glad this thing come full circle where the notoriety, fans are coming out. These individuals are able to go ahead and make good money off these tours. So I would love to see them go back out again. I think in this case, people, there's a lot of questions, a lot of criticisms and whatnot. But I'll tell you this: at the age that a lot of the fans are at, some people might have, but older now, and you go to your own challenge, health, and all that stuff like that. So you're not necessarily invincible. You don't have that invincible feeling that you had when you were young. Go out there and they're not like 25 or 30 years anymore. You kind of see shortfalls and all of that. It kind of glides right at that point. You're kind of like seeing yourself. It's like you're growing older with the artist. That's why when you see the response with Bobby, 20 years ago, Bobby was like the laughing stock of America, man. They just really made fun of him. A lot of low blows, negative comments, and all. At this point with Bobby, everybody is pulling for him because of all the life issues and stuff that he's had. So in this era, I think people are just glad to see the groups come out and do this classic music that they love. And I think it makes sense, for Teddy and Keith to be the anchors and everybody come out and, do what they do. So this whole touring situation is a great thing.
Wow. So, guys, let us know your thoughts if there is a Kings New Jack Swing tour, because they are wearing the jackets, and they did hint on it. This was a couple of months before the Legacy tour, so it's and we have to give a big shout out to Black Promoters. Is it Black Promoters? They are a group
Collective,
of
Black Promoters Collective.
They're a group of Black promoters who decided, you know what? Why don't we pull our resources together and form one company and start to, and only do arena tours. So they did the culture tour last year. Then they did the they did the culture tour last year. Then they did the tour with Maxwell and Joe as with Anthony Hamilton. They did Mary J. Blige's Good Morning Gorgeous tour, and they're doing some comedy tours as well. But then they're the ones who put out this legacy tour, and they said, look, we're not going to do small venues. It has to be arenas. And New Edition would have done more dates, but because of the NBA playoffs and other things, they couldn't get the venues. So when people say, "I wish they came to our city," it wasn't that they didn't want to come to; they just didn't have a venue big enough for them. And their shows are proper big arena tours. You can't really in this day and age, stadium tours don't get the same effect. So that's probably why. So they're going to keep planning, and it wouldn't surprise me if they come out with another tour next year. But it's really good. Before we wrap up tonight, it's been great. Sheldon, we just Stevie and I had time to reflect on the Timmy Gatling interview. Any thoughts from because we've watched pretty much 98% of it. What are any of your reflections from the interview?
I watched it as soon as you sent it to me, and I'm going to tell you this: that interview, it's the exclamation point that those four, unless it's a major minor miracle, they're never going to share the same stage ever. It's never going to happen. And the reason why I say that it's not because of Timmy's comments, because again, what he's saying is been documented. And the great thing about it is that, timing is everything, man. And a lot of people are responding. I've read the comments in the interview, and they're happy that he's spoken because they see the guy on the album cover, and it's kind of liberating because he's now freed from being the person on the album covers. He has the backstory. And the reason why I say those guys, it'll never be a situation like for me. If anything, I would have loved when once they went to Madison Square Garden in New York, I would have loved to say, hey, listen, we've been singing these songs. These songs. We want to bring out a person who is a major part of these songs. And they would have brought them out. Even they would have did New York City, man. It just would have been crazy. But I just think that when you look at that dynamic within the group, because Timmy was almost like the leader.
Yeah.
So how can you bring the leader back into a situation where now, because that was one of the issues with Guy in terms of that dynamic is the control of the group and the vision of the group. And so now if you bring a fourth person into that mix, that's chaos, man. So I don't know. I mean, it would have been great, but I think
Sheldon,
in this stage, yeah.
Sheldon, let me put this to you. I put this to Nnamdi earlier on about you're saying that they'll probably never share the four of them stage again. Let me put this to you, right? And I'm playing devil's advocate here. Let's say whoever's running Universal Records, right? The guy at Universal Records, they get to the end of the tax year, right? They realize they've got $5 million left out of the budget, and it's either case we either give this to the tax man, or we either sign a new group and just blow 5 million, or we go back and give one of our older acts a new leash of life, and they go, you know what? Let's get Guy to do a new album. The budget's $5 million, and they want all four members. To me, money talks and bullet walks. Do they go for it? $5 million on the table. There's $1 million each, and the other $1 million can promote it, used for promotion. How can they say no to that?
I'm gonna tell you, man, it would have to probably be 10 million. I'm not gonna lie to you. 5 million in this climate is a little bit low, but I'll just say this: it probably, man, if they say, well, look, we want a Guy album, we want all four members, and we're gonna give you 20,000, we're gonna give you $20 million, $15 million. I can see it, and I know I'm seeing the comments now, and it's not. I don't mean to be negative, because it would be great. But I just think that when you look at the roles that each member has in that group, how do you mesh that? When you look at Timmy's comments about how the group looked on stage and the image and all of these different type of things. So that means that, and then you heard Damien's comments, hey, we're going to do this. Said it. We all are going to have our individual look. It's not a uniform situation. And of course, there's the music and all of that. how do you for individuals? And you're right, Stevie. Money can fix a lot of things. You see new edition like they used to be. So money can a lot of things. But I'll just say that that interview, if anything, was the exclamation point in terms of that. And I felt the hurt in his voice, you know, when he said that, hey, nobody called me. And part of me felt that, I can't say if it's true or not, that in this time, this is like the fourth quarter, they say, hey, look, man, let's do this. Even if they wouldn't have called, they would have called him out in New York City, or they would have did, because he lives in Arizona now. So if they would have did California, hey, Timmy, come on out. But I just think that dynamic, man, is so fragile that, you know, and it's gonna be sad, you know, later on as cats get old and they don't perform anymore, they're gonna look back and say, man, maybe we could have done this. Because when you look in terms of the vocal support, look at all the rockers, they do that. They interchange, they come out, there's the support, you know, they might have their issues or whatever. They'll go back out and they'll do their thing. And I think it would have been really, really big with Guy coming out. But I think his comments on, you know, from the heart, he has the history, and he talks about the vision of the group and how, and it's not the first time. You've already know. He said the second album is totally different from the first. But money's everything, man. You know, when he's very transparent on how Universal contacted them and say, listen, you know, we need all 4 members. If you can't go Darren, or you can't go get Timmy or whatever, we're not fooling with you. So that just shows you, like you said, Stevie talks, but he did it in a tactful way, didn't put the group down, but as a member of the group, for him being as vocal as he was, it's his prerogative to say, because he was with the group from the beginning, a major part of the creative process, the visual process. So if it's anyone to say that, hey, you know, that by knowing the vision was, and I'm going to other people watch the video, but you know, but never say never, but the interview was the exclamation point. There needs to be a conversation in the room between the 4 of them, or between 2 of them. You know, so
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
we'll
and I
don't think it's going.
And I want to tell.
I don't think it's going.
Yeah, and I want to tell everyone that you know, I have nothing but love and for Damien, because, as I said, he was sitting on the floor in his bedroom doing the interview with me a week before the Legacy tour, and he you know, it turned midnight in the UK, so it was officially my birthday, and he sang happy birthday. First person wished me happy birthday and sang happy birthday to me, gave me mad props, and so I have nothing but love for Damien, and then also with Timmy, because I had 2 guests, and when Timmy came on my show almost 3 years ago, and his interview sort of changed. When I finished interviewing Timmy, and I was able to get him to talk through the Guy album and to share his story, I always felt that as if, give me my Nobel Peace Prize right now. I've done my job as a New Jack fan, that this is it. I've the Golden Grail. And so for me, those are two different experiences. And so, but then I also realized that what Timmy, you know, that hurts of, you know, just, I don't know. And my suspicion was that when they were trying to negotiate the contracts for the masters of both the Guy album and the Future album, I think promises were made and broken, because it seems as if, oh, we talked about this, and it seems as if you guys have changed your mind. That's how I just think, because
may I say something when you get a chance? May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I play devil's advocate, when I look at both of them, because think about it, the Timmy situation is you.
What do you say, Stevie?
Don't tell Jackie McGee that you're playing devil's advocate.
So you know, that's funny. But you know, when I look at both of them, I see one person who was like the leader of the group, who created the group, major person, putting people together, major part of the creative process. and then right when the ship is about to embark off on the journey, he's left at the dock. So there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of feelings. And then I see the other member who comes in to support his brother. And then you've got to deal with the fact that this group this is before Instagram, this is before Facebook. So a lot of people don't know the ins and outs of the group. So now you got to contend with, okay, I'm trying to find my space, my identity within the group, but the album cover is someone else. So now I have to kind of figure out, and then I got to deal with the fact that my songs that I'm singing on going forward on the next album, they want my brother to sing them. It's almost like, okay, I'm not good enough and they don't want me to sing them. Or, he talks about later on when he puts out his solo record that his record was doing well, but they didn't want my record to be as big as my brother's. He's talked about those things. So that's kind of, and if you look at it, fast forward to 2023, Damien is the spokesperson of Guy. He's the spokesperson of Guy. Teddy don't really talk. Aaron doesn't really talk. So when you look at that, when you look at that dynamic, you got two people, and there's just this disjointed history that exists, but there's also potential role conflict, because if I'm Damien, because I saw somebody ask a question about a fourth member, and he blew up. He was upset. He was like, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear about, So I played devil's advocate with both of them to where it's kind of hard because there's role conflict. Because if I'm Timmy's like, well, hey, I put in stock with the group. I helped put it together. I was doing everything. And then Damien is like, hey, I've been the one doing the interviews. I'm trying to keep the peace and keep these two individuals and trying to bring them together, and all of these different type of things. Like you're trying to keep everything going. So it's hard.
I mean, guys, if you haven't watched my first interview with Damien, because Damien, as Sheldon said, talked about these things. He was dragged in. He was in college. He was dragged in from Virginia, to come in and take and join the group. He was about to go on stage, and Timmy's face is everywhere. And he's like, well, what does that say about me? And they put him at the back. He's playing the drums. So almost as if we want you there, but when they do their first show at the Apollo, he's at the back with the musicians. And so it was Damien and Aaron, Aaron and Timmy and Teddy up front. And it took a while for him to say, look, if you brought me into this, you've got to include me. So when we're doing any of the singles and stuff, I need to have my face in it. But so it took a lot from him. And yes, Damien has been the one carrying the name, making sure the name still has an existence and stuff like that. So, and it is hard on all of them. As fans, I thought 112 should try and reunite. It's not, white folks, white artists, rock artists, they see the bigger picture. They see the money. They can do a couple of $1 million tours, and it's like, yep, we'll put everything together to the past. Guns N' Roses and stuff. Our black artists, it's hard. It seems a little bit more harder and stuff. So, hopefully.
It is a thing I thought as well, and I've always thought that recently Teddy, he wants to get away from Guy, but he can't. He's coming back for the money, for the tours. That's it. But really, he just wants to do what he wants to do. I'm sure he's got other business ventures, busy doing other stuff. But it feels like to me, when I see him talk, he's being dragged back into it. It's part of the past that he doesn't want to go back to. That was 30 years ago. I want to do this now. But because he's on the table for tours, well, okay. And he's got Damien pecking his head. Come on, let's go on this tour, blah, blah. But I think Teddy would be quite happy to sail off into the sunset and not go back to Guy again.
Well, the thing is, and just to piggyback off of what you said, Stevie, Aaron, I saw some clips they were doing backstage, and Aaron was like, hey, y'all made me come out here and do this. So we don't really, it's a lot of baggage, a lot of issues going on with them. But, it's kind of hard in this stage in the game, because think about the guys in their 50s. And, it's one thing you have a legacy, but people, man, they that be appreciate having legacy, but they don't necessarily want to be saddled with that legacy because they kind of see themselves, I don't want to say beyond it, but they're beyond dreaming things to do and all of that. And it's kind of hard. I mean, anybody that had your best success, major success when you were a young person, and then you're an older person, and the fans, they just see 88, 89, 90 or whatever. But you're so far beyond that, but it's hard to kind of balance that, man. And I don't know, but it's a situation that if they could come back together, it really would be great. But at this stage in the game, remember, there's people have 30 years of learned behavior, man. So they don't necessarily just change. I mean, you already in the interview, Timmy's talking about having a conversation with Teddy, like, look, man, leave the Michael Jackson voice alone. You got the situation going on. This is all of that. Save all of that for the media or whatever. So it's no different, man. When you see the Beatles couldn't put it back together again, and this one and that one, Chicago's another group, issues with lead singers and the whole nine, man. So in the end, I'm just happy what we can get.
I don't know. I there's a part of me that wonders that if the legacy tour, let's go back to the culture tour, singing in front of 20,000 people. Now you've just done the culture tour. So Jodeci, after that, they're like, okay, we need to get our act together. So now they're doing this block party tour with SWV and Drew Hill. I think there's something about singing in front of 20,000 people and getting that love that it's like, and I think, there's part of the money, but there's a part of you feeling wanted. And I've seen Teddy on stage on this legacy tour. He's enjoying the love. He's, before when he was doing these little shows here and there, promoter brings you in, you go do one in Connecticut, and you go to Vegas, and it's a little small here, and sometimes you don't get paid. You're on this legacy tour, you're getting paid, it's guaranteed, and you got 20,000 people. There's something about the fans that you're like, actually I want to do some of this. So that's why I think I would and will be part of this Kings of New Jack Swing tour. I think they may decide within the three of them that, we may not need Timmy, because as much as we can, it's easy to share. I don't know, and I don't think it's about the money. I think it's just that they can control things among the three of them. They know each other's sort of ups and downs, so they know how to manage it. I think the promoters would guarantee a good pot of money for them. But it's nothing like being loved in front of 20,000 fans. People don't like retiring. If sports people don't like retiring, musicians, if you keep going on the road and still go, because it's not just about the money. In some cases it is, but I don't know. There's something about 20,000 people shouting and screaming. So that's why I know the New Edition will be back out next year. Because you when you're part of that collective, the
response Johnny got, I'm trying to tell you, he went out there and did My, and he did his thing. Then he turned it into a gospel situation where he's jumping and around and he's singing him, and people are losing their mind. He's sweating, and you can see the joy in his face. You can see the joy in his face, man. And you talking about to go out there, and Timmy kind of talked about this, is that these people are doing songs that I wrote 30-something years ago. It's the same thing. These people out there performing the songs, and the audiences love them. It's not about you have a hit record out right now. It's like the work you put in now. It's like these are the dividends that are paying off. So again, like you said, I could see Guy on, because if Guy's not on a New Jack Swing too, it don't make sense. You gotta have them on there. You gotta have them on there. So hopefully it opens the door for you get like Today and everyone else coming on there, man. It would be super, super great.
Yeah. Anyway, I know we've got about a few minutes. So as we close, guys, we want to thank you guys who have been, asking questions and taking part. It's been awesome. We're going to do this again. But just before we wrap up today, we were going to put in 2 of our top 10. So they don't have to be the best, we just want to do.
10,
Okay, we
9,
do.
8.
So we've got 10 songs. So we want to do 3 of our top 10 today. And next time we're going to do another 3. So instead of just for time, Stevie, do you want to just hit 3 of your top 10? Then I can do 3 of my top 10, and Sheldon, you go do 3 of your top 10.
So we're starting from 10 then.
Yeah, we started. Yeah, but if you don't have them in order, it doesn't have to be in order.
I have them in order. I'd rather go
Okay.
in order.
Okay, go ahead then.
All right, I'll tell you what. I'll do my number 10 first, then you do yours, and let Sheldon, one each at a time. Then, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, number 10 is Cheyenne, a one and only 12-inch record produced by Kyle West. The extended mix of I've Waited Too Long. It's just one of the most epic 7 minutes of New Jack Kyle West production sound you'll ever hear. That's my number 10. Pass it over.
Okay. My number 10 is Do the Right Thing, Redhead Kingpin.
Oh, good choice. Very good choice.
Sheldon.
You got me speechless over here. Okay, if I had mine, it would be the long version, extended version of Keith Sweat's Make It Last Forever.
Well, that's a ballad.
Yeah.
Okay. If I had to have an up tempo, the up tempo I would take it would be Rex and Effect, New Jack Swing.
You need to go away and think about this top 10, Sheldon. Have a think, because I was thinking about it's difficult. It's so difficult.
It is difficult.
So
go ahead.
What did you just say then? Keith Sweat, what?
He said Make It Last Forever.
I would say that, and the reason why I say that is if you ever heard it, it's got the heavy bass and no ballads. Okay, no ballads. Right, like I said, Rex in Effect, New Jack Swing, 12-inch.
That's a good choice. See, I won't give it. Yeah, I'd not even put that in mine, but it's a great.
Stevie, back to reality, man.
See, what's your number 8, 9?
Number 9 is we've been talking about in Timmy Gatling, Help, the LP mix.
Wow.
Brilliant record, he's again so underrated. Sounds like a Guy record. The production could have quite easily been on the first Guy album. Okay. So that's my number 9. I played it so much at the time.
Okay,
and I tell Sheldon, I tried to base this top 10 on 2 factors. When I was a late teen, going into my early 20s, what were the records that I was dying to hear and play over and over again? And also, 30 years on, what have I continued to play? Because there's some records I don't want to listen to ever again because I'm tired of listening to them. You grow out of them.
Okay.
Well, that's like we talked about.
The 10 that I picked are the 10 that I loved at the time when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So I've gone back to that original. So when I first heard Timmy Gatling Help, I was just blown away. So anyway, what we on?
So my number 9 is She's Mine, Basic Black.
Brilliant record.
Oof. I mean, I love the little breakdown when Mucho and Speck are dancing and stuff. I mean, Mucho is one of my favorite guys. He has no filter when he talks. So there's actually one interview that I did with him that I couldn't even broadcast. So it was. So you thought Timmy was tough. Oh goodness, Mucho was a little So that was She's Mine by Basic Black. Sheldon, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Girl, I Got My Eye on You by Today, the 12-inch remix.
That was in my backup 10. My from 11 to 20. It was like, should I love that record? So 12-inch mix, unbelievable, isn't it?
Number 8, Stevie.
Oh gosh, and I'll shout out my good friend Leaky Fresh, original hip hop New Jack Swing DJ from Sunset Radio back at the time. He was doing a hip hop show at the time back then, and that was again when I was a student. I didn't have much money. I'd listen to his show, and about halfway through the hip hop show, he'd play 3 New Jack Swing records that had come out that week, and he played. Imagine hearing Jeff Red, I Found Loving for the very first time. I was I was like, what the hell is this? I was so young, I'd not even heard the Fatback Band original. So I thought that was an original song. I thought it was one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life. So that has made my number 8. I still love the production, but great song, even though it's a cover. That's my number 8.
My number 8 is "I Go to Work," Kumo D.
Wow.
I just
wow. I go
so
to
Kumo.
work.
Yeah, Kumo D is, I'd always put Kumo D against LL. I loved his flow. He was such a, his lyricist, the way he was doing his stuff, and then Teddy's production on his stuff. But I love that "I Go to Work." It's just, he just goes one and it just keeps going and pounding, and it's just, oh man, it uses James Brown samples to the max on his production. So I had to put in the Kumo D one in there, and people are looking to try and hook that up for me. So trying to get him on the show. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. Sheldon, number 8 for you.
Basic Black, Whatever It Takes. Love it.
Wow.
Basic. There's something about that record, Diesel, he's singing, production, I still play it in the car. I always imitate the talk.
Oh, you imitate the talk
day. I love that record. That's my favorite record off that album, man. I imitate it. Yeah, I'm like, man, that was me. Yeah, I love that record, man. I love it. I love it.
And I do wonder, do you guys want to continue, or do we stop there?
Yeah, we leave the listeners till next time. We'll do another 3. I'll tell you what we have got to talk about though before we go.
Yeah,
is the big news about the Bobby Brown "Don't Be Cruel" album getting a reissue in June.
Okay, so
double CD, bonus mixes, tracks, the whole shebang. It's all coming back out again.
I gotta get it.
So what do you say is happening with that? You're saying
I've heard that, is it Donald? Is his second name Cleveland? Maybe I have to get him on the podcast to talk about it. Donald Cleveland has gone back into the Universal Archives and put the compilation together, and it's I forgot the guy's name who's wrote the CD notes. He's on Twitter. Craig Seymour. He's done the
Craig Seymour. He wrote the Luther Vandross book, and he used to write for Vibe magazine. So yeah, that's gonna be a good compilation. Yes,
in June to get your pre-orders in. I've been saying for a few years now that album needs reissuing, because when I go in stores now going through the R&B and soul section, there's no Bobby Brown section anymore, and it's like you've got to have every record shop should have a copy of that in store, I think.
What they've done is that they've kind of like when I've gone, they've done like the whole compilation thing, because it's got a couple of greatest hits out there. But that album, I'm glad it's seeing the light of day again. That's a major record, man. And I hope they do other ones in the same vein. Hopefully, what's that? Night in Effect Mode. I would love to see a double CD situation of In Effect Mode, but I'm glad. Well, Crew's coming out.
Yeah, so I think Universal are doing that. So remember a year ago they did that with the Guy album and the Future album. They repackaged it with some, and it was made available on streaming services with some of the remixes, and that's because there's 35 years and they have to give back the masters to the artists. So now everyone is just rushing it out. So Jackie McGee is coming on, and I'm doing a live with her on Thursday, because they're finally reissuing her debut album with some of her mixes. So it's going to be 18 tracks from her debut album.
Could I possibly jump on that, please?
Okay. I'll give you guys. I'll give you both. Yeah, I'll give you both the opportunity.
So we can go through an album, which
Yeah. So if you guys.
Track.
Yeah. So it will be on this Thursday, but I'll 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. But it's going to be live, just like we're doing on stream like this, because it's going to be live, and she's going to go through the album and what to expect, because they called her up to say, hey, that we're reissuing the album.
Oh, that is awesome news.
And hopefully they'll go and get her second album, which she had tracks with Chucky and Jermaine and the rest of them, that they can reissue that, because I think Universal, just like they did the same with the Good Girls, they just things that they just forgotten about. It's almost as if, yeah, let's just get all our old stuff that we've just pushed to the side and reissue.
Doesn't want to hear Skeezer again, though, does she?
but they got, but what it is, I think they got younger people now. Like there's one guy, his name is Andre Torres, and he started out, I think he's with Universal, and he kind of handles all of the back catalog. Because when he started out, a lot of the rap albums that were out around that same time, he was reissuing them. So right now, if you look at it, a lot of the 70s music, it's already been released. So all the 80s music, 90s music coming out, that's like the new, it's always been classic, but that's the new catalog music now. So that's why you're actually starting to see a lot of that music come out now, because that's the new. Before, you get Earth, Wind and Fire, Best Of, and
the Gap Band,
There is a ton of Japanese New Jack Swing reissue albums coming out. There's loads of. There's the Second Today albums coming out, After 7, Brick City, all with bonus tracks. They're all coming back out.
Yeah,
I 20 listed. If you go on like the Juno, they've got them all listed for like, I don't know, £13 to £15 each. And I must just before we go, I've got to shout Miss R.A.E. She's a British Nigerian in her early 20s. She's made a New Jack Swing record called No Denying. R.A.E. Look her up. Okay. She makes 90s New Jack, hip hop, soul. She's got a new single out, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
I don't know why she's doing that. She, why hearing a producer want to make that sound, because they're so young, but I'm happy that they're doing it, and we got to support her.
Yeah, hopefully we can get her on. But guys, it's been great. It's been another great show, having you guys in, but you guys who have been sending the comments and asking the questions, it makes the show. So we want to thank you guys, because that's why we do it live, so we can get you guys involved and take part in stuff like this. It would be great to have a Troop today versus. I think Troop might win because they have a lot more material. Although Bob is a bigger singer, but Bob. So they're working on getting Big Bob back on the show. I've been working on him for 2 years, but Big Bob is one of the kindest guys within the industry. So when Troop were trying to get themselves back on the touring scene, Bob was headlining somewhere. He put Troop as the headliners of the show he was meant to headline, and supported them. And so if anyone knows John, who has come on the show twice, he's we're good friends. He's been straightforward and honest about how Bob has been. It's nothing but the best. But guys, get ready for Troop for today. They are coming out. They're rehearsing, and they're going to hit the scenes and do some major tours. And they've got a documentary coming out as well. So get ready for that. So I don't know if they're going to be part of the Kings of New Jack Swing tour, but I know that things are being put in place for them as well. So it seems as if what the Legacy tour has done is sort of open the door for everyone else to say, let's get our acts together and let's come out as one big package and stuff. So let's look forward to that. But Stevie, Sheldon, it's been great, guys. We stopped at number 8 today. So next week, next time we meet up, we'll let you guys know, and we'll continue down to 7, 6, and 5. It'll be interesting to see. But guys, you two at home, please put in your top 10 next time we go live and stuff. But I want to thank you guys for watching and supporting us and celebrating New Jack Swing. Take
Stevie,
care,
no ballads. I got
no ballads.
No ballads.
no ballads.